Hey guys, today I'm going to share 5 lessons I've learned over 21 years of being an amputee. Some good, some bad, some fun, and some annoying. Either way, whether you're disabled yourself, curious, or just want to understand our perspective a bit more, this video is for you. The first lesson and reason I decided to do this video is most people are just absolutely clueless on all things disabled. Specifically, this video will cover my physical disability, which is bilateral above knee amputation. If we got into all of the mental disabilities I have and why and the lessons I've learned from them, we'd have a bio documentary here filled with a bunch of information no one actually cares about. Let's be honest. But being a certified cripple for nearly 21 years seems to pique some people's interest. Again, first lesson, most people are clueless on the disabled. I can attribute this to genuine ignorance, which is no one's fault. I don't know much about the blind or deaf experience either, so I can't judge the public for that alone. I do think the public is introduced to disability in a very shitty way. My biggest pet peeve with disability awareness is what's called inspiration porn. This is where you see a commercial of someone in a wheelchair or on prosthetics and there's some sad piano music in the background, followed by Sarah McLachlan coming on screen and saying, for just 5 cents a day, you too can sponsor a poor, helpless cripple and help them feel like a normal person. I absolutely hate this shit. 1, what makes you think I want to feel or look or have the body of an able-bodied person? Being an amputee has been my life for 21 years. I don't know any other way. Next, my life is not some sob story of me staring out my window wishing I could join able-bodied people in living life. I've lived plenty of life, not in spite of being disabled, but because I didn't see any reason not to. I'm one of the most independent people I've ever met. I never saw a reason to stop myself from doing anything because of my amputations. Second pet peeve is scapegoating my disability for me. Do not ever assume I am acting a certain way or expecting something because of my disability. I do not expect any kind of special treatment or accommodations. I've lived this way most of my life. I have a personality far outside my disability, and scapegoating my disability for me makes it as if that's the entirety of my being. It's incredibly annoying, and expect to hear me snap at you if you do this. I hate it. The other reasons for people being clueless on the disabled is how we are represented in media. Going along with inspiration porn, I've never seen a movie depict someone handicapped who enjoyed their life. It's always some sad story, sad existence, sad everything. You can feel your pity all you want, I get it to a degree, but I can confidently say I have never met someone disabled who matches the sob story the media portrays us to have. Not once, not ever. It's your perception that drives the public perception of us, not the other way around. With this cluelessness, I've repeatedly received the following questions. Can you drive?
Alrighty, here's how it works. This lever connects under the steering wheel and it is attached to the acceleration and brake. So if you have legs, if you're able-bodied, you could drive this normally like anyone else would be able to. And yeah, that is the hand control. I move it down for gas, release, forward for brake, and then the spinner knob as well.
We have legit robots, and you guys think we haven't figured out a way to drive a car? I've rarely been asked, how do you drive? It's almost always, can you drive? Can you have sex? This is so fucking creepy. Paraplegics are admittedly a different story, but even with them, yes, they can have sex. There's a popular sex swing for the disabled called the intimate rider, which is more common for them. Wasn't for me personally, but to each their own. Viagra and the like works for any guy with a penis. Women who are paralyzed can still feel and enjoy sexual activity like any other, even without total feeling down there. Do you live alone? Yes, I do, and I have for the past several years. I've had various roommates over the years, but I moved out from my parents' house when I was 18 and never looked back. I've never needed a caretaker, always fully embracing my independence. Do you have any other medical issues? Due to how I wear prosthetics, I get infections in my leg a couple times a year, and antibiotics clears it up. Never been a serious issue that wasn't easy to manage. Remember though, I'm only speaking for myself. Different disabilities have different levels of independence. But again, the vast majority of disabled people I know live completely independent lives. Piggybacking off of all this and moving on to the second lesson, being disabled will show you most people do not possess common sense. Common sense is anything but common, and you'll understand this if you ever join our cool cripple club. Not only will you get regularly bombarded with the questions I answered above, many of them will ask in highly weird ways. from comments on social media posts to at work to social settings. For me, I don't mind anyone's curiosity. If I was able-bodied, I'd be curious too. And if I see another cripple in the wild, I'm curious. I might ask them some kind of question about it. All depends on what their situation is. Asking a question isn't the issue. Being rude is the issue. Totally acceptable way of asking me about my amputations. So what happened? How'd you lose them? Do you mind if I ask how it happened? I have no issue with this, nor do I know anyone else who's disabled who honestly has a problem being asked why they're disabled if you approach it in the right way. Some rude ways of asking. Was it diabetes? Are you a vet? What's wrong with you? Did you serve? Not everyone missing a limb lost it at war. I was hit by a truck crossing the street. I've had people buy me food under this assumption, and because I have never stolen valor, I correct them every time. Creates a really awkward experience for all of us. So just don't make the assumption. Third life lesson that being an amputee showed me, most people mean well and they're just curious. I can't say I've never gotten annoyed with people offering to help me because, going back to common sense, sometimes people don't understand there is such a thing as too much help. Airports in particular were always a nightmare for me as a wheelchair user. Even then, I understood they're just trying to help and they have good intentions. Outside of airports, most people hold doors open, ask if I need assistance, whatever. I don't mind this and appreciate their good nature. Being upset about this would be the equivalent of a feminist getting bitchy because you held the door open for them. It's ridiculous, and I always make sure I say thank you because I don't want to punish someone for having a good heart. Fourth lesson, I do accept the world was not built for me. At the start of 2024, I ditched my wheelchair for prosthetics full time. So this might not apply to me in the same way it applied to me over the previous 2 decades, but even still, the world is not made for the physically handicapped. Does that mean you can't figure out how to work with a world that isn't made for you? Of course not. I got around anywhere I went without any issue as a wheelchair user. But the whole without issue part took a while to adapt, and even then I continued to learn more all the time. I was a wheelchair user for probably 15 years before I realized you can, in fact, descend stairs in a chair pending there is a handrail. I never tried, looked for other routes like a ramp, but it is possible. You'll learn as you go. In November 2023, I started playing sled hockey, adaptive hockey. Beyond absolutely loving the sport, for the first time in my life, I joined a handicapped community. I never had before. I wasn't against it, but I had just never gotten involved in adaptive sports. I wish I had sooner. Being involved with this community has grown my knowledge and understanding of disability as a whole, other issues different people have to deal with, and how to navigate them. I don't think there's a single video I'll ever put out where there isn't an emphasis on having a strong community around you. Make sure you got one. Plus, I'm new to prosthetics. I've met a lot of other amputees. This is useful to me as I transition into this new space. In America, we have ADA laws. These laws ensure America will make itself more accessible for our minority group. Even still, they don't cover everything. Some parts of the US are too old and are grandfathered in, meaning they get away with having inaccessible buildings. New York City, for example, is nearly entirely inaccessible for a wheelchair user. Good luck finding a subway stop with an elevator. Good luck getting into buildings that have steps going into them. The same goes for Philadelphia. Some parts of the country are simply too old for wheelchair users to navigate easily. At least it was for me. So does that mean that no one does? Of course not. But for me, it was inaccessible. That's not my normal environment. And trying to navigate that as someone who doesn't have that as their normal environment was a giant pain in the ass. I avoid New York City like the plague. Europe and other parts of the world could care less. The EU rejected accepted ADA laws a couple years ago for reasons unknown. While I can understand this to some degree for ancient monuments, there is no reason for new construction to not make their building accessible. But again, I had to accept the world was not built for me. At this point, I'm okay with it. If something happens and I have to go back to being a chair user, so be it. I can navigate the world as a chair user. I have for 21 years. If I continue to use prosthetics, even less is inaccessible. The last lesson, enjoy the benefits. Accessible parking. So fire. As a wheelchair user, I always had a seat. Didn't suck. Cripple privilege. I was against this when I was new to being an amputee, but now, fuck it. If you guys want to let me cut lines and the like, who am I to say no? I can't give myself privilege. The world gives it to me. It's going to be there regardless, so I might as well take advantage of it. Now, this is not an excuse for me to be a whiny bitch expecting different treatment. All the same, if it's given to me, well, would you rather wait in line or cut it? Would you rather go first or last? Would you rather get a free fast pass at an amusement park or wait in prolonged lines? Exactly, so shut up. You'd enjoy the same benefits I do if given the opportunity. I can feel your jealousy. I almost feel bad exposing the privilege cripples get for our circumstance. I always said I hope people keep focusing on white privilege, because if they had a clue about cripple privilege, they'd find a way to bitch about that too. But again, the world gives me the fast pass. I'm not asking for it. To recap the life amputee lessons that I've learned. 1. Most people are clueless on all things disabled. 2. Most people do not possess common sense. 3. Most people mean well and are simply curious about my situation. 4. I had to accept the world was not built for me. And 5. Enjoy the benefits to your situation. Hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. Moving forward, do not let your ignorance or lack of being involved in the disabled community stop you from enjoying people who are. We're human beings, just like you. We just have a different life circumstance and perspective of the world. On top of that, little piece of trivia knowledge for you. The disabled are the largest minority in the US, and the only minority you can become a member of at any time.